Meeting, the special meeting of the Emery School Board. Brian Carver has arrived, and we're ready to start this interview. Just going to go over a few of the ground rules. We are giving each candidate 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes. It may not take that long. We have 8 questions. We're recommending about 3 minutes a question in terms of answers, but it's ultimately up to you. We will end at 30 minutes. If there's time left over, you can make a final statement or revisit a question at your option. And candidates are being brought in individually, the other candidates sequestered, and we'll ask candidates to leave following their interview and notify you by phone as to the status of candidacy. Any questions about any of that?
Sounds good.
All right. We have 8 questions. We're just going to rotate the questioners, and I'm going to start. Can you briefly describe your commitment to public education in our local school district?
Yeah, good evening, President Affelt, members of the board. Thanks for having me here tonight and inviting me for an interview. I think I'm extremely committed to public education. I believe it's one of the most important things in what makes a community great. It's ought to be one of society's most cherished values. I wish our state legislators often did a little bit more to illustrate their commitment to public education and gave us more resources for that. But I in particular, have sort of seen firsthand how the school district becomes a hub for community activity. Right? By sending my own children to Emery schools for the last, 6 years at least, it ends up being that, your children's friends become your friends, or their parents become your friends. You end up at the same activities, and it becomes this sort of binding glue for the entire community, right? I've tried to be involved in various ways myself, both over the years when the Dad's Club was active, participating in that, and when at various times with the Parent-Teacher Association. Sometimes work commitments have not allowed me to do as much of that as I'd like, but and sometimes those organizations have gone up and down in terms of their overall levels of activity. But I think we've got to get public education right for our community, because because so many people are depending on us, right? These families that I say you've made friends with and come to know are depending on you, it's really critical that you do everything you can to provide their kids with the best possible education. It becomes very personal because in a small community like ours, you know precisely who it affects. I think I'd just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you.
Next question, number 2. Please share any background information that you feel prepares you for a position as a school board member, for example, education, work experience, etc.
So I got a master's degree at UC Irvine, and in the process was a teaching assistant And my degree program was in philosophy, and when I got into that program, I thought that what I was mainly interested in was the subject matter, and that those in my field taught simply because that was the only way to pay the bills, right? That there's not a lot of other opportunities for philosophers. And but what I found when the first time they threw me into a classroom to pay those bills was that I really loved it. I was amazed that, you know, in every class there's always a couple students who get really excited about the subject matter. They're coming to office hours and asking questions. And so I found that teaching has its own rewards. And from there, I ended up signing up to be in this teaching development program over the summer, where we went through a very intensive summer program learning about pedagogy, learning about sort of how to best engage students. And the culmination of that was you prepared a course to sort of teach the incoming graduate students who were going to themselves be first-time teachers. And so I ended up leading a graduate level course on pedagogy. After doing that for a while, I actually decided, you know, I don't really like the substance of this degree as much as I like the teaching. And if that's what I like, I could do that now. And there were some other reasons, but I went for a couple years and just taught philosophy at community colleges in Southern California. Particularly at Long Beach City College, I did several sections of introductory logic where we used this computer software to teach the stuff, and it was so much fun that I think if they had been able to offer me a full-time position, I might still be there doing that. But it's actually very hard to string together multiple part-time positions all over the Southern California freeways that are crammed with cars, and that lost its allure after a while, and I went to law school. But even when I did that, I sort of had the idea that I was going to go back to teaching. I had gotten an interest in the law, but I was like, but what I really want to do is teach. And so after law school and after a little time at the firm, I managed to get a faculty position at UC Berkeley in their School of Information, teaching law courses for not just law students, but the entire campus. And again, my dean found out that I had some background in pedagogy and had taught a course on that before, and so she had me design and teach for a couple semesters a pedagogy seminar for the new graduate student teachers there as well. So all of that, I guess one other component maybe of my time at Berkeley was I taught and designed and taught our very first completely online course for the School of Information, and that experience had me and a research assistant spending a lot of time thinking about how do you engage students, how do you use technology to best engage students, and these kinds of things. So even though I'm now sort of primarily an attorney, my working life has seen me be a teacher for more years than anything else, right? And so from that set of experiences, I've given a lot of thought to what makes classrooms work well, how do you reach different types of students, what ways can technology help, when does it get in the way, you know, so I think at a minimum I would bring that background to the discussions. But also, by being a member of this community for the last 8 years, I've followed the activities of this district, you know, very closely. Participated in the bond oversight committee as chair for a year, and so I think there's a whole lot I would have to learn about being a good school board member because, for instance, there's maybe nothing more complicated in the world than school district finances. You know, maybe a lot of things that I would enjoy learning from you all on, but I also think I have a little bit of a leg up in some areas where I have paid attention to the past history of this district, and also through my own work experiences given a lot of thought to those types of things.
Describe your commitment to ensuring the board functions well and share any prior experience on working on boards or teams.
Well, you know, given what I said about the importance of public education and us getting it right for those in our community, the board has to function well to achieve those goals, right? It's essential that it find a way to get its important work done. I think it's best if it's not a political fight. You know, the general public right now does not have a lot of faith in government. They look at Congress and the gridlock they see there, or even our state legislature, and get fairly disgusted with the way people behave, right? I think that's a shame, and there ought to be a way for people to function together for the benefit of the public they're trying to serve. I think we have a decent example of how that can work in our own city council right now. That's a group of 5 people that don't always agree. They frequently have 3-2 votes on items, but I have rarely seen it cause them to be unable to move on to the next item and discuss it fairly, and then, you know, reach a 5-0 vote on the next item when that's what is appropriate, right? You know, I think what you do is you assume that those up there with you are working in good faith towards the same goals. You don't impute bad motives to those that are sitting up there with you, and you recognize that sometimes you can have an honest disagreement, and that's okay, right? And you try to hear the other people, understand their perspective, and then vote, and then move on, right? You know, now it's time to get to work on the next important issue. And you can't hold grudges or be petty about these sorts of things, or you're going to eventually get into a situation where you're not functioning well and you're not achieving those important goals. And I've seen that from personal experience as well. I've been on numerous city committees, the Child Development Committee from its inception till just about its closure, and actually it was one of the things that led me to move away from my academic career and back to working as an attorney, is that I actually really love working on a team. When I did do litigation at a firm, they were these large litigations that basically require you to work as a team. No one person handles it by themselves. And I really enjoyed that give and take with a group of 3 or 4 other attorneys. And I found that what Berkeley really wants you to do is lock yourself in your office by yourself and write papers, you know, and it was just too lonely for my tastes. I actually enjoyed advising the students on projects they were working on in teams, you know, and saw that sort of team activity, those kinds of projects are the ones I find more fulfilling. And so I've had a range of experiences like that, working on teams to get something done where I think I enjoy it more, and it ends up being, you get better results.
Just to let you know, you're about 16 and a half minutes in, and we're on question 4 of 8.
Yes. How does the board's role differ from that of the superintendent?
I think the board has to set a larger policy vision for the district and give the superintendent direction on the major issues that it faces, but that many, if not most, of the sort of day-to-day operational details are really the superintendent's purview. The board should not micromanage, I guess I would say, and instead they can set the strategic direction and the goals for the district, some general principles by which they want to operate, and sometimes there will be discretion in how exactly that gets accomplished that's left up, I think, to the superintendent. That doesn't mean there should be a total disconnect, that, you know, that the only interaction between the board and the superintendent should be in these public meetings or something. I think it probably works best when the superintendent does have, you know, frequent meetings with individual board members to hear what their concerns are, to relay, here's what I'm working on and what I'm doing, more detail than you can really get into in the public meetings. And so each board member probably should develop a strong relationship with the superintendent, where they each know where the other's coming from. But it would not be the role of any individual board member to purport to give the superintendent direction, right? That has to be a majority of the board that sets the policies. So I think that's enough on that.
Okay, thanks. With the district's 4 goals in mind, and I think you brought them with you, and there's a set up there if you didn't. What do you see as the strengths of the Emery Unified School District?
Well, I think we're making progress on each of these goals, because I've watched the district over a number of years and do see steps in each of these directions, trying to provide equitable access to more educational opportunities. I've seen us try to make sure there's these outlets for students to get skills that make them ready for colleges and careers. We've done several things to try to integrate technology into our curriculum. And obviously, we're almost done, we hope, right, with building the multi-use city school campus. So that's about to be a reality. I think, though, what really is behind the accomplishments that we make on each of those goals are we have had for many years some really strong teachers and staff in the district that as leadership has changed, they've remained and been a really important force for positive growth. I think from what I spend more time at the elementary school, but given the ages of my children, but I've seen the principal there have a very positive effect since her arrival. So I think that's one of the strengths of the district right now is they have a leader in place who, and the vice principal actually I would say as well, has really contributed over there. I know the high school principal less well, though I have met him. And in addition to those teachers and staff that I think are a real strength of our district, the community that we have here is also a really amazing strength. Our parents will come out when you tell them their students are performing, you know, or in a song or dance or whatever the situation is, you know, and they will volunteer to go on field trips and they will participate. And so we get a lot done through leveraging what they can bring. Yeah, I think that's good for now.
Okay, you've got 11 minutes. You're on question 6.
All right. With the district's 4 goals in mind, what do you see as the areas most needing improvement in the Emery Unified School District?
Well, I think we've been hindered in the past in part due to our size. When you're a very small district, it makes several things challenging, right? You know, resources are not as great as they are other places. You have to make tough choices about what to prioritize and what you can offer and what you can't. And and just a sheer numbers game comes into play. For instance, you know, if you have a very small high school, then you can't possibly have the same group of 20 people be on the football team, on the band, be the cheerleaders, be the the track team, be, you know, also do the newspaper, right? You know, you're going to have to pick and choose which of those activities to prioritize. When you reach a larger scale, there's just more people to fill those positions, more resources to pursue them. So I think that's held us back in some places. It also, though, sometimes we make significant advances in some of those areas, but just don't communicate them well. And I think that's probably been a weakness of the district, is that we often do really great things, and then nobody hears about them. And, I mean, even as a parent, I have trouble finding out about things that are going on sometimes. You can't rely on a second grader to be the best source of information, right, about what's going on. They'll tell you what they tell you, right? You know, and sometimes they remember to bring home newsletters, and sometimes they get lost or dropped in a puddle, right? You know, so finding multiple channels of communication and utilizing them in the best possible way, I think could go a long way to addressing some of that. So that when we are making important strides, people can find out about it, can get involved, and you know, and these sorts of things.
Of the district's 4 goals, are there any that you do not support? Do you have any additional goals you think should be considered?
No, I certainly support all these goals. I think in some ways it's dangerous to add too many goals. You don't want to lose focus, so I wouldn't want to add 3 or 4 more. I guess if forced, you know, to add another one, I might choose something about leveraging this strength that I mentioned earlier, that our parents and community that we have here. You know, we have a rare business climate here in Emeryville, and I think we could do more to bring them in to what the district is doing, and so sort of being connected to those entities in a more routine way would be something I'd be interested in, and leveraging what the parents are also maybe able to offer. So sometimes those experts that we might want to bring in to talk about some topic are not just at the businesses in Emeryville, they're in the homes of Emeryville residents. We have such a diverse community. I think about the students in my daughter's class whose first language is Arabic, and have always thought, wow, it would be great if we could somehow bring in those parents, and you know, is one of them able to teach Arabic after school to people who are interested, or you know, like that's just not something that a lot of other schools have as a possibility even, right? You know, we have these really unique and diverse communities in this area, and we ought to do what we can to try and leverage that and take advantage of it. But I think it's best probably though to stay focused, and so the 4 of the goals that you have are a good set.
Okay, and lastly.
Before you ask the last question, you're at 6 minutes.
Are you aware that the district is striving to be a full-service community school district, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, definitely. I've been following that process for years, and been involved in countless meetings on that. I think what it means is well, two parts, both right there in the phrase. It's full service. It's also community, right? And the services ought to involve recognizing the needs that we have within our district and our community, both among the students and the families, and trying to make access to the services they need easier. You know, if we know that asthma is a chronic problem in Alameda County and that Emeryville has got some of the worst asthma rates among children, then we ought to be bringing in the asthma bus on a regular basis, like we do, in fact, you know, and putting that right there on the campus so that it's extremely easy for students to get access to those kind of services. And then the community part of it means that it shouldn't only be about the students, but that we do want to bring in the larger community, both those who are maybe young adults without children yet, and those whose children are past school age or who are older. We want to see how we can include them, how we can provide services for them and get them to feel like the school district is doing things that are relevant and important for them as well. Yeah.
Okay, you have 4 minutes left to make a final statement or revisit any questions if you'd like.
I think I managed to say most everything I wanted to. I probably will remember something as soon as I walk out the door, but rare for me that I managed to do it maybe under time. Having spent time on the faculty when I speak, I'm used to having an hour and 15 minutes all to myself to lecture. But I guess I just appreciate you guys considering my application. I would be thrilled to try to help you with the tough job that you have in front of you. Really respect and appreciate the time and commitment that each of you has given to this job. I think I've said before in public meetings that it's in many ways a thankless job, right? It's difficult, it's hard finding folks who are willing to do it is really something special. So I appreciate what you guys have done, and would just be glad to help, because I think even whether my own children go to this district schools or not, I live in this community and have for a long time, and so it's really important to me, right? You know, what happens for this community and for the students in it. So thanks.
All right. Thank you, and appreciate your coming in, knowing you're not feeling that well.